Before we begin, I want you to think about one person, just one, someone who always seems to drain your energy, someone who criticizes you, manipulates you, provokes you, or secretly enjoys seeing you struggle. Now here is the uncomfortable truth. That person may not be controlling your life because they are powerful. They may be controlling your life because they know something about you that you don't know about yourself. They know which words trigger you. They know which emotions control you. They know exactly how to steal your focus without ever touching you. And if you are not careful, they will continue doing it for years. Most people think the solution is confrontation. Fight back, argue harder, prove them wrong, get revenge. But what if I told you that every time you react, you are actually giving them exactly what they want? What if the behaviors you believe make you strong are secretly keeping you trapped? Today, I am going to reveal 8 silent moves that completely change the game. These are not manipulation tactics. These are not psychological tricks. These are principles that transform the way toxic people see you, and more importantly, the way you see yourself. Because the moment you master these silent moves, something strange begins to happen. The people who once knew how to control your emotions suddenly lose their influence. The people who expected your reaction are met with calmness. The people who believed they understood you become confused by the person you are becoming. And the final move is so powerful that most people never discover it until much later in life. When they do, they often wish they had learned it years earlier. So stay with me until the very end. Because one of these 8 silent moves could be the exact lesson you need to break free from toxic people and reclaim control over your mind, your energy, and your future. The first silent move is one that sounds simple, but for many people it is one of the hardest things they will ever do. Stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Think about how much energy the average person wastes trying to be understood by the wrong people. They explain their decisions. They justify their choices. They defend their boundaries. They repeat themselves again and again, hoping that if they can just find the perfect words, the other person will finally understand. But what if understanding was never the goal? What if the person in front of you already understands exactly what you mean, but chooses not to accept it? This is where many intelligent people become trapped. They assume every disagreement is a communication problem. They believe that if they speak more clearly, explain more patiently, or provide more evidence, the situation will improve. But toxic people operate according to a different psychology. They do not always seek truth. They seek leverage. They do not always ask questions because they are curious. Sometimes they ask questions because they are looking for weaknesses. Every explanation becomes another opportunity to criticize. Every defense becomes another opportunity to attack. Every attempt to justify yourself becomes proof that they still have access to your emotional state. And the moment you understand this, a profound shift begins to happen inside you. You realize that not every conversation deserves your participation. You realize that not every accusation deserves your response. You realize that your peace is more valuable than winning an argument that was designed for you to lose. There is an ancient mistake that many people make. They confuse being understood with being valuable. They think, if this person could only see my intentions, then everything would be okay. But your value does not increase because someone finally understands you. Your value exists whether they understand you or not. A mountain does not become taller because someone appreciates its height. The ocean does not become deeper because someone recognizes its depth. In the same way, your character does not become stronger because another person approves of it. The need to constantly explain yourself often comes from an invisible fear. The fear of being judged. The fear of being rejected. The fear of being misunderstood. And because these fears are uncomfortable, people spend years trying to manage the opinions of others. But here is the paradox. The more desperately you try to control what people think about you, the more control you give them over your life. Because now your emotional state depends on their approval, Now your peace depends on their agreement. Now your confidence depends on their understanding. And that is a dangerous position to live from. A disciplined mind understands something different. A disciplined mind understands that people see the world through the lens of their own experiences, insecurities, wounds, and beliefs. Some people will misunderstand you because they lack information. Others will misunderstand you because they lack maturity. And some will misunderstand you because your growth challenges their comfort. No explanation can change a person who is committed to maintaining a distorted view of you. At some point, wisdom requires acceptance. Acceptance that not everyone will understand your journey. Acceptance that not everyone will support your transformation. Acceptance that some people need you to stay small because your growth reminds them of their own limitations. This is why silence becomes such a powerful move. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you have learned that not everything needs to be said. There is tremendous strength in remaining calm when someone expects you to defend yourself. There is tremendous power in smiling when someone expects you to argue. There is tremendous freedom in walking away from conversations that no longer deserve your energy. The immature mind believes every challenge requires a response. The mature mind understands that attention is a resource, and resources must be invested wisely. Imagine carrying a bucket of water through a desert. Would you pour it onto every patch of dry ground you encounter? Of course not. You would protect it carefully because you understand its value. Your energy is exactly the same. Every unnecessary argument drains it. Every attempt to convince the unwilling consumes it. Every effort to gain validation from toxic people wastes it. The strongest individuals are not those who can win every debate. They are those who know which debates are not worth entering, because life is too short to spend it proving yourself to people who have already decided who you are. Your purpose is not to manage everyone's perception. Your purpose is to live in alignment with your values. If your intentions are clear, your actions are honest, and your conscience is clean, then you do not need to carry the burden of endless explanations. Let people misunderstand. Let people make assumptions. Let people tell stories about who they think you are, because eventually reality reveals what arguments never can. Your consistency will speak louder than your words. Your actions will speak louder than your defenses. Your character will speak louder than your explanations. And when toxic people realize they can no longer pull you into endless cycles of justification, something remarkable happens. They become confused. Because the version of you they knew was always available for conflict. The version of you they knew was always ready to defend, argue, and explain. But now they are standing in front of someone different. Someone who values peace more than approval. Someone who values purpose more than validation. Someone who understands that silence is not weakness, it is mastery. Remember this. The moment you stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you, you stop giving them authority over your mind. And that is the moment your freedom truly begins. Now, once you stop wasting your energy explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you, another challenge immediately appears. And this challenge is even more difficult, because toxic people rarely stop when they realize they can no longer control your thoughts. Instead, they try to control your emotions. This is where the second silent move becomes essential. Master emotional discipline instead of emotional reaction. Most people believe strength is about what you can do. But true strength is often about what you refuse to do. The ability to speak when necessary is valuable. But the ability to remain silent when your emotions demand a reaction is far more powerful. Think about it. Why do toxic people provoke? Why do they criticize? Why do they insult, manipulate, gossip, and create unnecessary drama? Because they understand something about human psychology. They understand that an emotional person is a predictable person. The moment they can make you angry, they can influence your behavior. The moment they can make you defensive, they can control your focus. The moment they can make you emotional, they can pull you away from your center. And this is why emotional discipline is not simply a personal skill. It is a form of freedom. Many people spend their lives believing they are making independent choices. Yet every day, someone else's words determine their mood. Someone else's opinion determines their confidence. Someone else's behavior determines their peace. That is not freedom. That is emotional dependency. The disciplined individual understands a profound truth. You cannot always control what happens around you, but you can always train how you respond to it. Notice I did not say control your emotions. Many people misunderstand emotional mastery. They think it means becoming cold. They think it means suppressing feelings. They think it means pretending nothing affects them. But that is not discipline. That is avoidance. Emotional discipline means you feel everything without becoming controlled by it. You acknowledge anger without becoming anger. You experience disappointment without becoming consumed by disappointment. You recognize frustration without allowing frustration to make decisions for you. This distinction changes everything, because toxic people expect immediate reactions. They expect the angry message. They expect the emotional argument. They expect the defensive explanation. They expect you to become exactly what they have provoked. And when that happens, they win. Not because they are right, but because they successfully took control of your internal state. Imagine someone hands you a gift. If you refuse to accept it, who does the gift belong to? It remains with the person offering it. The same principle applies to negativity. Every insult is an invitation. Every provocation is an invitation. Every act of disrespect is an invitation. The question is not what they offer. The question is whether you choose to accept it. Most people accept immediately. Someone insults them, and they carry that insult all day. Someone criticizes them, and they replay those words all night. Someone disrespects them, and they surrender hours, days, or even years of emotional energy. But a disciplined person understands that acceptance is a choice. They hear the words. They observe the behavior, but they refuse to make that negativity their home. This requires practice, because the human ego wants to defend itself. The ego wants the final word. The ego wants revenge. The ego wants recognition. The ego wants justice immediately. But wisdom understands something the ego does not. Not every battle deserves your participation. A lion does not turn around every time a dog barks. A mountain does not tremble because the wind is loud. And a disciplined mind does not lose its balance because someone else has lost theirs. This does not mean allowing abuse. It does not mean tolerating toxic behavior indefinitely. Sometimes emotional discipline means leaving. Sometimes it means setting boundaries. Sometimes it means ending relationships that repeatedly damage your well-being. But even these actions can be taken from a place of clarity rather than emotional chaos. The strongest decisions are rarely made in moments of emotional turbulence. They are made from calm awareness. This is why toxic people become confused when they encounter someone emotionally disciplined. They are accustomed to predictable reactions. They know how to manipulate anger. They know how to manipulate guilt. They know how to manipulate fear, but they struggle to manipulate someone who has learned to pause before responding. That pause is where power lives. Just a few seconds. Just enough space between stimulus and response. Enough space to choose wisdom instead of impulse. Enough space to choose purpose instead of pride. Enough space to choose peace instead of conflict. Most people underestimate the importance of this pause. Yet entire lives are changed by it. Relationships are saved by it. Careers are protected by it. Reputations are preserved by it. Because many of the greatest regrets in life are not created by thoughtful decisions. They are created by emotional reactions. A moment of anger, a moment of pride, a moment of frustration, a moment where emotion temporarily became stronger than awareness. The disciplined person understands that emotions are visitors. They arrive, they stay for a while, and eventually they leave. But if you make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions, suffering often follows. This is why inner mastery requires observation. Observe your anger. Observe your fear. Observe your frustration. Watch them carefully without immediately obeying them. The moment you become the observer, rather than the servant of your emotions, something extraordinary happens. You begin reclaiming authority over your own life. You stop being controlled by circumstances. You stop being controlled by toxic individuals. You stop being controlled by every external event that seeks your attention. And suddenly, you become difficult to manipulate, not because you are emotionless, but because your emotions no longer control your actions. This is what true strength looks like. Not shouting louder than everyone else, not winning every argument, not proving your superiority. True strength is maintaining your inner balance when others are trying to disturb it. Because anyone can remain calm when life is easy. Anyone can appear peaceful when nothing challenges them. But maintaining clarity in the presence of chaos, that is mastery. And when toxic people realize they can no longer provoke the reaction they expected, they begin losing access to the very thing they were trying to control all along. Your mind, your focus, your peace. Remember this: the greatest victory is not defeating the person who provokes you. The greatest victory is becoming the person they can no longer provoke. Now, once you stop explaining yourself to people who are determined to misunderstand you, and once you develop the discipline to control your reactions instead of being controlled by them, something remarkable begins to happen. You create space, space in your mind, space in your emotions, space in your life. And the question becomes, what will you do with that space? Because removing toxic influences is only half the journey. The other half is building something so meaningful that negativity can no longer become the center of your existence. This is the third silent move. Build a life so focused that negativity can no longer distract you. Most people believe toxic people are their biggest problem. But often, the bigger problem is the amount of attention they give them. Think carefully about this. Attention is one of the most valuable resources you possess. More valuable than money, more valuable than status, more valuable than possessions. Because wherever your attention goes, your life follows. What you repeatedly focus on eventually shapes your thoughts. Your thoughts shape your decisions. Your decisions shape your future. This means every moment spent obsessing over toxic people is a moment taken away from building the life you truly want. Yet many people spend years trapped in this cycle. They replay conversations, they analyze insults, they imagine arguments. They think about what they should have said. They think about what they will say next time. Meanwhile, life continues moving forward. Opportunities pass, dreams remain unfinished, potential remains unrealized. And all because their attention has been captured by something that contributes nothing to their growth. This is exactly what toxic people want. Not necessarily your defeat, your distraction. Because distracted people rarely reach their highest potential. A distracted mind is easy to control. A focused mind is nearly impossible to stop. This is why your greatest response is often not confrontation. It is commitment. Commitment to your growth. Commitment to your purpose. Commitment to becoming so engaged in building your future that you no longer have time to participate in unnecessary drama. Consider the difference between two individuals. The first spends every day watching what others are doing, monitoring critics, responding to negativity, seeking approval, trying to prove people wrong. The second spends every day learning, practicing, improving, building, creating. The first person becomes exhausted. The second becomes extraordinary. The difference is not talent. The difference is focus. One mind is trapped in reaction. The other is invested in creation. And creation will always be more powerful than reaction. This is one of the deepest lessons life can teach. Your future is built by what you create, not by what you complain about. Many people unknowingly make toxic individuals the main characters of their story. Every decision revolves around them. Every emotion revolves around them. Every thought revolves around them. But the moment you choose growth, something changes. You become the main character again. You stop asking, how do I make them understand? And you start asking, how do I improve myself? You stop asking, how do I prove them wrong? And you start asking, how do I become better? You stop asking, why are they doing this to me? And you start asking, what can I build despite this? That shift is life-changing, Because your energy is no longer flowing toward resistance. It is flowing toward progress. And progress has a unique quality. It creates momentum. Every book you read, every skill you develop, every workout you complete, every disciplined choice you make, every promise you keep to yourself, these actions begin creating evidence. Evidence that you are growing. Evidence that you are becoming stronger. Evidence that your life is moving forward. And when you see that progress, something interesting happens. The opinions of toxic people start losing significance. Not because they changed, but because you changed. The mountain does not concern itself with the opinion of the storm. The mountain simply continues standing. In the same way, focused individuals become difficult to disturb. Not because they have eliminated every problem, but because their attention is invested elsewhere. This does not mean ignoring reality. It means prioritizing wisely. Every day you wake up with a limited amount of energy. The question is simple. Will you invest it in growth or in distraction? Will you invest it in purpose or in conflict? Will you invest it in building your future or reliving yesterday's negativity? Your answers to these questions determine the direction of your life. The most successful people in any field understand this principle deeply. They know that excellence requires concentration, and concentration requires sacrifice. You cannot build a meaningful life while simultaneously giving endless attention to every critic, every insult, and every source of negativity. At some point you must choose. Choose your vision over your distractions. Choose your purpose over your pride. Choose your growth over your grievances. Because every great achievement demands focus. And focus demands that some things no longer deserve access to your attention. Toxic people become confused when they realize they are no longer the center of your awareness. They expect resistance. They expect emotional reactions. They expect arguments. But instead they find someone who is too busy building, too busy learning, too busy growing, too busy creating a meaningful future. And this is perhaps the most powerful silent move of all. Because success achieved in silence speaks louder than any explanation. Results speak louder than arguments. Growth speaks louder than criticism. And purpose speaks louder than negativity. The ultimate goal is not to spend your life defeating toxic people. The ultimate goal is to become so focused on your mission that toxic people become irrelevant. That is freedom. Not when negativity disappears, but when negativity no longer controls your direction. Not when criticism ends, but when criticism no longer determines your choices. Not when toxic people change, but when their presence no longer has the power to influence your path. Remember this, the people who rise highest in life are not those who spend their energy fighting every distraction. They are the ones who become so committed to their purpose that distractions eventually lose the power to pull them away from it. Focus on building your future. And one day you will realize that the very people who once disturbed your peace no longer occupy a single corner of your mind.